Hello, Blair here of Chaos Costumes to teach you more about Nomad. Today we're going to explore more organic things, anatomy, paired with something that's a little less organic. So without further ado, let's go. So if you remember, last project we made was a sweet warhammer, not 40k. But this time we're going to make something new. We're going to make a tome. I don't know what else to call it. So let's start with a box. And we won't need the sphere. Bye, sphere. And let's make this box a little longer. And a lot thinner. And a little wider. So we're going to increase the division. Validate it. And then we'll clone that box. We'll hide the original box. And then we'll use the trim tool in an interesting way. We'll use the ellipse, turn off auto validate, and we'll flip the selection. All I want is this little bitty corner right here. I can move it around with this little green circle since I turned auto validate off. And then I can trim out everything around it. Now you wonder, what am I going to do with this? Well, I'm going to force symmetry and then turn off the x-axis and go to the y. And then I have corners for each corner of the book. Now I want to make a border kind of the same way, so I'll make a clone of the original box. And then I'll go in just with the rectangle trim. But I want to turn off the flip. Make sure symmetry is turned off so I get this little L shape. Then I can go in with the symmetry and swing it over to that side, and then turn on the y-axis only and flip it down. Now that I got this sweet border, I'm just going to select it all and boolean it together. Make another clone of the original box. I want to just make a little delicate border to accentuate the cover of this tome. And I'll do it the same way that I did the other pieces, or force symmetry on the x-axis and then the y-axis. But if you're finding it deletes a piece, just rotate your canvas a smidge. You just want to make it a smidge smaller and a bit fatter and see what I'm working with. And I'll push back the first box. And it looks like I didn't make the border small enough, so I'm just going to shrink that a little more. Now you can not really see all the details that we're putting in, so I'm going to actually go in with a smooth operation. And it kind of bevels those edges evenly. I'm going to do the same with the outer border. But it looks like dog shit. So let's fix that. Let's just voxel remesh it. And then I can go in with the smooth operation. Now we can see everything. Make this border that's more delicate a little bit smaller. So now that we have the cover of the book, let's make pages. And we'll use a tube this time, because you know I love tubes. And I'll rotate that tube on 90 degrees, and then change the profile. So I want the profile to be really narrow. I'll just rotate the profile so it's in the right orientation here for me. But it's still a little too thick for me. So what I'm going to do is zoom in so the grid is even smaller and make it even narrower. And honestly, you can make it more narrow than this. If you're having trouble like I am, turn off the rotate. Now we can zoom in on it and fix it. I can make it a little thinner, but you don't want to do this too much because it gets kind of warped when you move it around with the tube tool. So I want to toggle on the grid and then mess with the tube and lock the view so we don't twist it accidentally. But you see what I mean? It kind of distorts it a little bit, but this is a tolerable amount of distortion. I'm just looking to make the pages lay naturally well, as natural as they can in a digital space. And I'll increase the division just to smooth it out a little bit. I'll use the gizmo just to make it a little taller. And increase that arch a little bit. Now I can validate it. And to make the pages of this book, we're going to do something really cool. We're going to add an array. And so when you first put in an array, it kind of builds it right up there. We're going to turn that off and start building the array with the Z count. And then we can push them closer together. Once we have the count we want, we can use the randomize, but turn off the translation and the rotation, and just use the scale in a very small amount so that the pages have some delineation. This is a super fast and dirty way to make pages of a book. Now that we have most of our pages, I'm going to trim off these corners just so it's a little bit more even. And then I'll just join that array in the tubes, so it's all one thing. And I'll decimate it a bit, just so it's not a huge file size. Now what we're going to do is add a mirror modifier to all of that, so we can make this book a book. And select everything but the mirror. Move it into the book orientation, and we'll rotate it around and push it up to the center of the scene because we still need a spine for this book. And then add a cylinder to start this spine situation. Make it a little taller and a lot narrower. And push it and pull it to where it needs to be. Increase the division while we're here. Or to add where the signatures kind of glue in, I'm going to add toruses. Cute little donuts that they are. I'm going to use the array again. And increase the quantity on the Y count. I'll pull it down to make that little book spine piece. Now I can just validate that array. Select those two pieces and join them. This way I can smush them together a little bit, so it's a little less round. And I'm just going to add a frame of cylinders on each side, just so it makes a little bit more sense. And then I'll slide those cylinders into the mirror. Subdivide this original cylinder because I want to use the mask to push the middle inwards, if that makes sense. So I'll go in with the ellipse select mask and turn off the auto validate, just so I can push and pull it around once I build the shape. Once I have it masked off where I want it, I'll invert that mask and then use the gizmo to shrink the middle. So what you want is it to toggle auto when you use the gizmo this way, and that way it's only modifying outside of the mask. Now I want these pages to touch the spine a little bit more effectively, so I'm just going to use the move tool and pull them in. And then I'll trim out the middle of this cylinder, so it's not interfering with the pages of the book. Now that I'm satisfied with that, I can clear out the mask and decimate it so it's a nice size of the spine, and then take everything under the mirror and join it, and decimate it while I'm here. Now I'll join all of those pieces so the book is one piece. And I'll start making something that holds this book. So I'm going to start with a box. this box is going to be the palm. And to this palm, we will add the thumb palm, the thumb part of the palm, and I'm going to use a sphere with the insert tool. And then I'll add a tube. These tubes will be the fingies. So we're going to make one great fingy, and then duplicate said fingy. So just to keep the tube straight, I'm using the grid and the magnet, or the snapping I should say. Then I'll add a sphere. Make it smaller, and these will be the knuckles of the fingy. And then I'll clone the first tube to make the second bone of the finger. And then clone that other sphere to make the second knuckle. I don't know what it's called. And clone that tube again to make the tip of the finger. And to round out this tip of the finger, I'm going to change the radius to be modified each node, and then turn off the magnet so I can adjust it smoothly. I'll curve this fingy tip, just so I have to fight it less when sculpting. And I'll just make the knuckle while I'm here. I'll change these fingies so they taper a little bit. So what we're going to do is change the hierarchy of everything so that it becomes posable. So you'll click and drag, and then you'll put it underneath the bottom, or whatever you want the master to be. So keep doing that over and over again until you get to the tip of the fingy. The fingy tip. I was just going to keep it one little middle finger, but you know, let's make a whole hand. So what you'll do is select the sphere, and then you'll be able to pose the hand. I honestly think this is easier than trying to draw a hand. I also just remembered that I wanted to add a claw to this fingertip before I start cloning everything. So I'll just take the fingertip and clone it and make a claw out of that. And I'll turn off snapping on this top menu here, so I have a lot more control. Now that I'm happy with that claw, I'm just going to add a profile to it. Which node controls what I want, and of course it's the last one. And I'll add a nice little bevel on the top here. Now the finger has a claw. And while I'm here, I'll increase the division of the fingies. The fingy joints? No, the finger parts? Sure, why not? Now I can select all of this nonsense and clone it over to make more fingers. Now I can select the little ball on the bottom and move the fingers over and pose them as I please. Now I can increase the division of my palm box and use the move tool to move it around in a more organic fashion with turning off the symmetry. Now I need just one more digit, and it's the thumb. So I'll just take the tip of this finger. I'll clone that over and use this piece for the thumb. I'll select the object so it doesn't resize the whole thing. And thickify the thumb as needed. That I have the gist of the hand. Because I have like 50 layers here and I'm trying to organize the thumb. I'm actually going to name a layer. Wow. I'm naming layers? Wild. I can figure out where to put that. Ideally, the tree would start with that, but this is good enough. This whole hand situation is an exercise in trusting the process. Now that I'm happy with the pose, we can start making this hand look more like a hand. So I'm going to use the move tool to move the thumb meat around. I would have never guessed in a million years that I would say the word thumb meat. I am totally looking at my own hand as a reference. So now that I'm happy with the thumb meat, I can work on the palm meat. I'll just push and pull that around as I please. Let's flesh out this backhand. So now that I'm happy with the posing, I can hide the book and push and pull around what I need to get it to match up nicely. I'll add a bonus cylinder to make this hand an arm. And I'll change the radius so it's more conical. Increase the division and squish it down a little bit so it's more oblong. Now I can match that up with the brush tool. Flatten out these little corners of the box. Then clay up these joints. The goal is to not make a perfect hand with all these pieces because it'll always look like hot doggy doo-doo. I just want to get the gist so that when I do glue everything together, it looks good. I'm going to do the part that we've all been waiting for, and it's making the tendons, because you've been waiting for the tendons, clearly. I'm just drawing them in with the clay tool. And then the finger webs, because why not? I'm going to see if I can pinch them a little tighter with the pinch tool. And web them out a little bit. I mean, I get why hands are a challenge, because they're deceivingly complicated. Like, how many forms are on a finger, let alone an entire handful of fingers? I'll go in with the select tool and select everything but the claws. Make sure I got the right things. And then voxel remesh it all together so it glues everything together. Now I can go in and smooth all of the transitions. And go in and sculpt everything. Every little detail crevice and spot, it's just the crease tool and clay tool. That's all I'm using, and sometimes the move tool. Now it looks closer to what a hand looks like. Hope you trusted the process. Just look at your own hand. Figure out what hands do. They do a lot. Now we can show the book again and see what we're working with. Honestly, our book is really tiny, so let's make it a little bigger. I'm just going to add a cylinder base for stability, just so this hand can hold more than just a little plastic book. So what I'm going to do is that trick I used quite a while ago, and I'm actually going to reduce the division quite substantially. I'll validate it, and then I'll go and subdivide it to round out the edges. And then I can clone that shape just to add more interest. I'll make a little disc where the hand comes out so it makes more sense? Question mark? I don't know, is it a trophy? What is the story behind this hand? And I'll move everything over a smidge. What I'm going to do is separate out the book because it is giving me trouble with trying to boolean it together. So I'm going to go in and just boolean each piece separately and then together. So we'll take the pages individually, separately, and just boolean those together. And this side, boolean it together. And then the two sides of the book, boolean that together. And I'll just trim this spine a little bit more successfully, just so there's no weird overlapping shapes. Realizing I totally missed these pages down here. Now that I'm realizing the pages are messed up, I'm just going to use a mask in this area. Invert that mask, and just move these pages back so they're touching the spine on the bottom. I'm sure my mistakes like this because modeling, especially when you're starting out, is a lot of troubleshooting, so hopefully this solves some of your problems. I'm just going to trim out the back of those pages. I'm going to take all of these pieces and boolean them together, but it failed on me and I don't know why. So I'll do 1/2 at a time. That's fine. And that does what I want. It's this middle portion that causes the failure, and I don't know why. So I guess I'll just take it and voxel remesh it together. Keeping sharp edges enabled. Now I should be able to join everything? Question mark? Yes, now booleans. Yay! I'll just fix this little gap here. I can show the pages again. And I'll join everything. I'll make a clone of the book, hide it, and then select the hand thing, and boolean out the book from the hand. I got this neat little shelf, but weird geometry happened, so in order to fix that, I'm actually just going to pull out the crazy geometry with the move tool, and just trim it out. Now it solved the problem and we got a little shelf for the book. Now we can name it Hand. And the book, what it is, the book, B-E-W-K, book. It's estimated for good measure. And export STL as selected. Let's slice this bad boy. So I'm going to be using my AMS, so let me sync the colors that I have. And add my book. I want to hit no on the scaling. Just a little guy. And I'll repair it real quick. And just wee itty bitty guy. I'm going to find the perfect scale for him. So how's 20 millimeters? Much too small. 50 millimeters? Still too small. 100 millimeters? But 150 millimeters. That's an adequate size. But I want to make the scale percentage an even number. So I'll do 5300. I'll need that number for the other piece. And I'll just rotate this a smidge so it prints nicely. Now, I want to paint it, so I'll start out with the fill bucket tool. Or just paint most of it with the fill bucket tool. And then all these little nuggets that are inside of the sculpture, we will tend to. But first let's get the bulk of it. Then I'll go in and paint where all of the burgundy is missing. Now that we have a nice pretty cover and pages, let's make another plate to add our hand. Remember what we did, because I always forget, and I need to scale it up. First, let's repair it while I'm here. Scale it up by 5300. Now they are the same size, and they will fit together. I just want to print this with lightning infill since it's just aesthetic. And make sure support is enabled, globally speaking. I just wanted to print support on this bottom edge here, so I'll just use the fill bucket tool and just fill the bottom out. Now we can slicey dice this and see what we're working with. Perfect child, minus one little dot there. We're going to ignore that dot. We're going to pretend that dot doesn't exist. What I love about this hand is that it's not printing with supports at all. I designed it nicely. Sick. Alright, let's print this, guys. So, hands aren't that hard when you sculpt them. Drawing them is a whole nother animal. But I think this is pretty cool. I mean, like, I'm a big fan of claws, obviously, but who would have thought that you could make an anatomical hand from scratch without too much trouble? It's the power of the tube. I'm gonna keep doing it regardless, but if you like what I do, please like the video. If you have any suggestions or comments or just want to make me laugh, put a comment down below. And if you're new here, well, subscribe, hello, if you haven't already. Every little bit helps. Just a reminder, I am releasing my files that are cleaned up, mind you, on cults. And if I should start a Patreon or something, also let me know that. I'm completely new to this. Either way, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.